What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Billtendo Show with myself, Bill, co-host to the awesome Mike. Mike knows he's really in charge. He's the secret boss around here. He keeps me in line. So, before we get into things, if you're looking for video games or consoles or emulators or anything of the kind, check out Billtendo.com and we have you covered. Use the code Quest64 to get 10% off.
Hi, Billy.
Hi, Mike. Nice to see you again.
It's nice to be on the Billtendo Show with Billy. Billy, the head guy of the Billtendo Show. It's great to be here.
Everybody knows the truth, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I happened to quip at Billy before this episode. We were talking about preparations for it, and he said that I could handle the show tonight because his preparations were minimal. So apparently it's not the Billtendo Show tonight, it's the Billtendo Show. But Billy knows everything about this subject anyway, so he doesn't even need me to be here. He could just do this whole hour by himself, and I could just, pop in and out every, 25 minutes and have some Oreos.
So, I think I do way too much stuff by myself over on YouTube. This show is for us, dude. And, I could really use some help on YouTube if you ever want to show your face. I mean, seriously, Mike, if you ever get around to like, hey, I'd be okay having my face on camera. Dude, you're my buddy. And I got to tell you, you're not that ugly. You know what I mean? Like, you could put, you're welcome. You could put a camera on. Nobody, almost, some people are not going to turn it off when they see you.
I'm not one of them. I turn it off when I see me. I would love to just shut it off now so I don't have to look while we're talking. I did.
Oh, no.
I did a guest appearance by sending you a bunch of photos the other day while I was out shopping. So that's like a second party Mike on
That's true, and
YouTube.
And I shouted out your Twitter account.
Yeah. I ended up just posting it on my Twitter. I shared the link and stuff and posted on there. So when you get a bunch of extra views tonight or whatever, then you'll know why. It's because of me.
Oh, nice. Yeah, somebody on YouTube this week, I've had two very strange, strange for me comments and on YouTube in the last 2 days, and one of them was that I'm obsessed with DK Oldies, and I'm like, I'm not obsessed with them. I just like called them out on bullshit, because I had made a video like, and the truth is, like, I was dying laughing through the whole thing. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. They posted, like, DK Oldies posted a video of Joey reacting to Joey packing an order. And I'm like, why are you making reaction videos to yourself? And I thought it was very clownish and pick me behavior. So I made a video about that, and somebody told me I was obsessed with DK Oldies. But like, if I was obsessed with it, I'd be like dying laughing through the whole video at the absurdity of it, because it wasn't meant to be satirical. It wasn't meant to be meta. It's just giving off that pick me energy, please pay attention to us. And then someone else accused me of never having lived in the real world because I'm a YouTuber. And I'm like, dude, I
actually took care of that comment right before we came on tonight, as I was just bebopping through the YouTube, which I never do.
Wait, did you respond to it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, like, Mike, you know me. I was a carpenter and a project manager for 30 years. Even now, I'm still not a YouTuber. I make videos that I put on YouTube.
Nah, you're a YouTuber now.
I have under 1,000 subscribers. I don't think that makes anybody a YouTuber.
You're a YouTuber now. Sorry, I'm gonna lump you in with all of them. That's why I came to your defense. I'm like, yeah. He is kind of a douche, but you know.
Wait, did you? Now I'm pulling it up while we talk. You piece of crud. Speaking of YouTubers, since it's gaming and geek culture, um, I know I said I didn't have any news to talk about before the show, but I do because we know the situation that's going on with um what's his name, the Jax Films and SS Sniper Wolf.
Oh yeah, I just talked to this with some friends on Twitter because my kids like Sniper Wolf, but yeah, she doxed the hell out of him.
Why? She doesn't do anything.
They like reaction videos, dude. Like they like
Yeah,
do
but
you ever watch like do
She
you ever see
doesn't
like
real.
VAT we ever see like VAT 19, like that place that just sells a bunch of weirdo stuff?
No, but Sniper Wolf doesn't. She's more of a content thief and less of a reaction channel because she might make maybe one or two comments per video, but mostly she just sits there stoned faced or, like no face muscles moving, watching someone else's content. And so she's just reposting other people's content and claiming that she's adding to it by it being a
Yeah,
reaction,
but that's like
but it's not.
70% of YouTube these days, Billy.
I'm not down with it. Anyway, she's received a lot of criticism for her, exactly what I was just talking about, especially by Jax Films, who's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And she decided, since she was in the area, she went to his house
Yeah.
on Instagram Live.
Yeah, she said, "Hey, I'm like
And
my
like,
shoot's 5 minutes away from his house. Yes or no? Should we go visit him?" And she did.
yeah, she did on Instagram Live. Showed his house, showed his address.
Yep.
Um,
He stayed
and
inside. He called the cops. Yeah, she did get
you know
arrested, so
what?
that was cool.
You know, yeah. Well, my wife and I had a talk about this morning, and my wife said, "I hope you have enough beef with somebody that happens here, because my wife is going to go out the door and whoop that ass."
Yeah. Yeah.
But YouTube actually responded to it
Yeah.
finally
Well, but they
after almost.
responded poorly because they said
Yeah, exactly.
they did it both sides. They did a
Yeah,
Gaza
they
Strip
did.
thing.
They Yeah, they temporarily demonetized Sniper Wolf and then said, "We hope both sides, hey, do better." You
Yep.
know?
Well,
Yeah. No
because that's
way,
what YouTube
man.
is. They're a business and they let crappy people continue to do business on there because they need the views. It is the
I
way
was
it
gonna
is.
say, as long as they make the money, she makes the money.
Yep.
People like looking at a pretty girl, and I could say a lot of things about Sniper Wolf, but she's an attractive woman. You
Mhm.
know, I see no other redeeming qualities to her at all. You know,
Her voice. Okay,
and
so what I've always said about her is compared to a lot of the people that do the same style of content, just reaction videos and playing other people's stuff, her voice is a lot
like
less annoying than a
QRC.
lot of them. Like, so if I have to listen to my kids listening to her stuff for a while, it's a lot better than some of the like nasally, whiny, high pitched, screaming ones. At least she just talks. So,
Dude,
yeah,
what is that? Like my stepson, every time he's 18, he tries to show me TikToks or reels or YouTube shorts or whatever, and it's always somebody screaming.
yeah, it's a whole style. So I'm glad that it's not that. But I did have a
Right,
talk with my 9-year-old, and I said, "Hey, here's what Sniper Wolf did. This is what doxing is," and we talked about it. I'm like, "So that's not cool. So in my opinion, you should watch less of it." And I haven't seen her watching it since then, but she
right.
doesn't like, she's in phases. She likes like the crafty people. So a lot of like I said, we had your buddy on, the artist, and she likes that kind of stuff too, like transformative
Yeah,
art. And like there's one girl that like takes squishies and like the little like foam things and paints them and melds them into other things, and she likes that kind of stuff. So I don't hear her watching the same stuff all the time, but I just don't like that yelling and screaming and screeching. And
yeah,
so this is
yeah.
not
What's
a
the
Sniper Wolf, like pro Sniper Wolf, she's the best. It's of the bad, it's the
She's
easiest to listen
tolerable,
to. Well, it's just the easiest to listen to voice because I don't have to watch it. I just have to hear it on the other side of the
right?
house.
Even when she was the gamer girl,
Yeah.
it she got accused a lot of times of not playing games, and people are like, "Oh, you're just hating because it's a girl." And then it come to find out in court documents, her ex Sausage actually sat off camera and played the game. She never actually played any games. He did all of it. He edited videos. He did like that's why her whole content changed when they broke up.
See, I had no
Because
idea. I thought they were still together because my kids watch like older stuff that they did. So he's still in all the
yeah,
videos.
yeah. No, no, no. They broke up and like he set up the channel and all of that stuff and was even after they broke up was supposed to receive half of everything because he built the channel and immediately upon them breaking up she started cutting him out of the monetization.
I mean, to be
That's
expected,
what
I
people
guess.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna put that one on well, it needs to be put on her, but you know, crappy people do crappy things. That's
Yeah.
all there is to it. I'm not surprised by that maneuver at all.
Yeah. Unless he had some sort of like legally binding document, he knew exactly what was going to happen the second they were
Oh, they
together.
had a contract.
I mean, a contract is a lot of things, Billy. There's a verbal contract, there's a written contract that's not a legal document. So I'm not a
Right.
first party to that conversation, but like I said, he should have expected whatever he got, and then if he wanted to
Oh
react to
yeah.
that, it is what it is. So
Yeah. Right.
anyway, Sniper Wolf sucks. So
Yeah.
just like you, just
Yeah.
another YouTuber. So other news. The big news for N64 stuff for me over the last week was that Analog is making the Analog
Yeah.
3D, which so when I posted this on Twitter, I said I've been something along the lines of I've been baited with this carrot on a string a few times before. We've seen that what other companies have done trying to make dedicated N64 systems, and I said I'm holding my breath that it's okay to be optimistic without being overly optimistic. Uh I'm rooting for Analog to do this correctly. What I
Yeah.
don't like about Analog, well, let's talk about the good first. The good is that they're this is also I'm gonna end up talking in circles here. But their big shtick is that no emulation, correct? They say that everything is dedicated to use FPGA, but they do use emulation. It's hardware emulation because they're not using a board from an N64. It's just not software emulation. So it's not like one of those, $30 emulated boxes that plays 30,000 games that you can get on AliExpress or something like that. It's not one of those. It's hardware emulation that lets you play original carts, and that's cool. And that's what Analog does the best with the Pocket that they made, the Game Boy one, and the Super NT and all that stuff. They do the things correctly. What I don't like about Analog is like all of these other companies that are doing this sort of thing is that they thrive on FOMO. And I just cannot get
Right.
behind those companies. Like the reason that the Pocket is so popular is because it's never in stock. If you just tried to buy a Pocket and it was always there, I have a feeling there'd be a lot less hype. But instead, they've released the Pocket like 7 times now, pre-orders only,
Yeah.
different colors, various price
Right.
points between $200 and $500, which is my other qualm about Analog is because they use that FOMO. They can just choose the price and it's
And
super
you know what?
expensive compared to
The
original
first
hardware.
run, yeah, that first run of Analog Pockets was mid-priced, and then it dipped down a little bit on like the second and third run, and by the fourth, it shot through the roof.
Because they started doing the translucent ones, they were trying to get the hype back up. So they just kept doing
Mhm.
new things with less of them being made and then increasing the hype on them coming out, which is God, I hate all of that. Even during the pandemic when EverDrives were scarce, I talked out against people buying them on eBay because I don't want people spending $300-400 on eBay for something that's $200. That sucks. So I mean, it said just be patient. There's new drops. But the thing about EverDrive is Kriggs was always going to have more. There was going to be more. You knew they were coming. It was going to be the same price, and it wasn't going to change. And now they're in stock. Just I mean, so that's the model they should be using. If you have one, it's okay to have limited runs of colors and things like that. But if you have a base model of something, that base model should always be in stock. Otherwise, it's just limited run garbage. It's just making people feel like they're not part of something because they can't go just buy the thing. They can't just pay retail price for the thing and have it. So that's what I
Right.
fear, is that this is going to be a good system, not great, but I think it's going to be good. But I'm also worried it's going to be, like brushed aluminum cased $599 entry model,
Yeah, I was about to
$799
say
with the continuity.
it's gonna be cost prohibitive for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna. The thing is, like, no matter what they do to it, at the price point analog is gonna put this thing at, it's always going to be a more economical option to get an original N64 and probably even a Funtastic. You
And
know?
an original with the most expensive HDMI mod. I mean,
Right.
if you want
Right.
HDMI on your system, you could just pay somebody to do it at $500. Not, and that's just a guess. What if it comes in at $300? Cool, then, awesome. But they also have to fight the Mister, which is right around the corner too, which is also doing the exact same stuff that they're doing, FPGA emulation.
Wait. The what?
Mister, Mister. It's another core doing the exact same thing that Analog does, running games using hardware emulation instead of software emulation. So, and that's one that's like moddable, where you can put, it's going to be the framework for a buildable system. So you can decide what cores
Wait,
you want to add to it.
like the Poly Mega?
Sort of, but not some big ugly plastic box. You're just going to get like a board, and then you decide what systems you want that board to
Oh,
play.
I got you. That's pretty
So,
cool.
so like
Yeah,
what people doing with like Raspberry Pis, but think of it as like a
right,
hardware thing instead of a software thing.
right. I remember Poly Mega announced the 64, and you and I have like their module for the 64, and you and I have actually argued with people because they're like, "Oh yeah, Nintendo 64 emulation and fake consoles have been out there for years. Poly Mega sells them," and I'm like, "No, they announced them.
Yeah.
They've never sold them." You
Yeah, go
know,
on
you
eBay
and I
right
have had
now
the
and
same
try to buy it, because
conversations
you
with
can't buy
people.
one off their site. Go on eBay, try to buy one a Poly Mega right now. It's like a G for like, and it's not including the N64, because there's modules for the Poly Mega 1 through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like NES, SNES, Sega, the
Right.
handhelds, and 5 is the N64. Try to find somebody that has one for under $1,000, because some have been released. There are people with them. I have yet to have anybody show me one working. Like, this is what it looks like,
Yeah.
because there is just so few. But
Oh, I
so
dropped the
yeah, just
snot.
another thing, just another way to get your money. Until somebody does a good job of recreating the original system cheaper than the original system, there's just no reason. Do you really need to play it on your like 72-inch 4K TV? Like, just
I do.
play it. You don't. And if you want to spend that much, then just get a mod, even just an RGB mod, like, and then play it
Okay.
through a RetroTink or something. But whatever. I'm always going to be about the cheapest way to do things, and it doesn't feel like Analog, Polymega, or any of those companies are about being the cheapest, most accessible way to do anything. They just want to be a thing that gets people to spend
All
money.
I'm saying is I want to bop a 2 foot tall grunty in the head. You know?
So go outside with a projector and do it out there.
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay, so then you don't need this. This isn't for you then, and it's not for me either. It would have to be stupid cheap, or comparably stupid cheap. So we're talking $200, around the price of their pockets and things like that, or the NT. And it would have to be just amazing before I'm talked
That's the
into
thing.
buying one.
At $200, I would buy one for myself.
That's
Anything
kind
more than that, I'm not really interested.
of the wheelhouse I'm in. $250 even sounds reasonable, because that's what the pockets sell for, or they're like $249, whatever. We're getting on. I know it costs money to make things, but it also, it can't cost
Right.
more than the
Well,
original thing, or it's weird.
that's what I'm saying, man. Like, it makes more sense to buy an OG 64. when you
Yeah.
can get one for under $100.
My only other argument is people like to say, well, you have to get something like the analog because your system's not going to last forever. I have a case study of my system lasts forever. It has lasted forever. I have a like I have Nintendo 64s that are 25 years old. Do you
Yeah, all,
prove to me right now that the analog is going to last 20 years, because we've seen current gen systems from, PS2, Xbox 360, all the way up to the PS5s, that all run with original run system failures, or have long-term disk failure, or not including like red rings and over heat sink problems and stuff. Promise me that this analog thing that's going to cost me all this money is going to last 25 years. Just how are you going to show that to me? I have proof. Like, I have a system that's lasted 25 years. Who's to say another 25 years isn't going to come out of my N64?
right. Well, also, I'd really like to point out you can say whatever you want, but like, oh, this is a newer system, it's gonna last you longer. But I'm telling you right now, if we take both of those consoles and go put them in my driveway and drive my car over both of them,
Yeah.
I'm 100% certain which one's gonna
Yeah.
fire right up.
Yeah, we know which
You
one's
know?
going to last. I understand.
Dude, I got a Nintendo 64 from Japan before. Excuse me. And it had a hole literally the size of a fist in it. What when I got it, it got damaged during shipping, and like the plastic pieces are falling all over. I plugged it in. I fired that bad boy up with that giant hole in it.
Yep.
It worked freaking perfect. I ended up using that board in a different console that had a good case but a dead board.
Yep, I have one that's missing like a third of the plastic on the right side. I can like see all the way in it. I can hear the thing running.
Right.
Yep, runs just fine.
Yeah, it's fine. And by the way, I'd also like to point out that I sell a lot of Nintendo 64s. I have sold thousands of them, and that's not an exaggeration. I've probably sold 2,000 consoles in the last few years. You know how many dead Nintendo 64s I have, Mike? Because I've kept them all. In case I need parts.
I was going to guess like 8.
3. There's only been 3 that I was not able to repair within 5 minutes.
That's what I've always preached about them as well, as they're indestructible. That's just the way it is. So when somebody says they have a problem, they're like, "Oh, where do I send this to get repaired?" I'm like, your kitchen table, most likely. Go get some alcohol and some compressed air.
Every single time somebody says, "Oh, well, I got a stack of Nintendo 64s that don't work. Do you want to buy them?" I'm like, "Yep, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I'll buy those pieces of shit."
Yeah.
And then, 5 minutes later, I got the whole stack working.
Yeah.
If it was a car, I'd drive it home.
Let's see. One of the other big stories from this week will now be it's almost 7 days. Is that now Mario Wonder is out. That was yesterday. And earlier this week, the voice actor was revealed. There was data miners guessing all sorts of things for who the new voice was going to be. And they thought it was Mick Wingert, who was another voice actor, but it turned out to be a gentleman named Kevin Afghani. And which, if you played Wonder, or if you watched any Wonder videos, he's doing a great job. And he's going to continue to do a great job, and that is what it is. He's the voice of Mario now. Just get used to it. Unless they decide that they're going to switch it up by the game, this is just what it is. But he also caused some sort of stink on the internet because it's the internet. And in his Twitter profile, when he announced that he's the voice of Mario, he just simply had his pronouns, he, him, on his...
oh, no, that's too far. For some people.
Yes. Imagine finding out that a Italian plumber male wearing a red jumpsuit was he, him. Mind-blowing information here. Anyway, a couple YouTubers, not Billy, but other YouTubers that he's friends with,
Oh my God.
did a video saying, this guy doesn't need to say his pronouns. This is ridiculous. The same stuff that you would just expect out of the internet people. And he got ratioed and tore to threads both on YouTube and on Twitter, and it completely overshadowed Kevin and him and his coming out party, which is super cool. Imagine being able to say, I'm the voice of Mario, and then having that
Right.
completely overshadowed by a bunch of just garbage
Nonsense.
naysayers that just have nothing to do but complain about everything. It was really depressing.
Nothing productive to add to the discourse.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. It was just, now we have to recognize every person that comes into the media space and their pronouns, no matter how stupid they are or how ridiculous. We never had to deal with this 20 years ago, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I know.
When Walter Cronkite showed up, they referred to him as he and him.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have bios to put it in publicly. But yes. I mean, look, I know gentlemen that are like my mom's age, right? When Carol was a very common man's name. So if I name my son Carol now, it's more flipped towards a female name now. So if my son put he, him in his bio, so people know that this Carol is a man, I see no problem there.
And it's super common. Right? It's super common with professional, especially with like people like professional Twitter accounts, like business Twitter accounts.
Yeah. Right.
It is incredibly common. It's like, go on even on like places like LinkedIn. I see people with when you get down to the nitty gritty, there's pronouns on there too. Like, just get used to it. It's always been there.
Going your whole day instead of being hypocritical and say, I won't use pronouns. Yes, you do. Yeah. You use them every 2 minutes. I'll give you $100 if you can go a whole day without using a single pronoun, because you cannot do it. It's ridiculous. Just leave people alone. Like, Mike, I don't put my pronouns on my bios. I don't, because I don't feel it's necessary for me. But if you want to, I don't care. Okay, cool. Good for you. Like, why we got to keep fucking with people?
Yeah. A lot of people say that they don't care about pronouns, but then if you like accidentally like mispronoun them, they care really quickly. Those are the same people that want to complain about.
Yeah, that's real funny, because if there's a guy that says, what, I don't have any pronouns or blah blah blah, and you call him ma'am a couple times, he's gonna get real salty.
Yeah, you find out that it's just a simple courtesy and not some big internet story for your YouTube channel real fast. I mean, let's say that doesn't hurt, but if somebody is insulting you in a way, I don't want to say that like it's toxic, but when you have somebody that identifies as extremely masculine, and at any point you question that toxic masculinity, they're real quick to react. So I mean, it just doesn't have to happen. So Kevin Afghani, if you're one of the 7 listeners, congratulations to you. Super
Wait,
proud.
What do you mean 7? We have Scott, we have Ryan.
There was a bunch of people on your Facebook page that said that they listen now, so I just...
Oh, that's true. But you have Scott and I have Ryan. Them's our peoples.
Nobody listens to me, Billy.
Mike, people like you. Mm-mm. Nobody would listen if it was just me. I promise you.
We should do a case study in this and find out. Just do a Billtendo Show episode of just Billtendo one week.
No, I don't want to do that. I have my YouTube for that, and even now, like, I've been bringing in other friends that do different types of media to do stuff with me, because for me it's a lot more fun if I'm doing stuff with people, Otherwise, I feel a little bit sometimes like I'm screaming into the void.
Well, I feel like that every day.
Well, no, I feel like that all the time, but I mean while I'm recording. Like, I don't feel like that when I'm recording with you because you can hear me screaming. But, I'm sitting in my studio recording for YouTube and I'm down here by myself with a script I wrote myself about a subject that I researched, and I'm like, who's gonna watch this, man? Like, and then sometimes they do okay, and then sometimes nobody watches them, and I'm like, ouch.
I feel the same way when I go out of my way to make a really poignant, quick little uh, bio about an N64 game or a history post in the morning, and one day it gets 20,000 reactions and it's super cool, and then the next day I do one that I feel like is on par as the previous days, and then 300 people look at it and nobody talks about it. I'm like, oh, cool guys. I guess we really like Body Harvest, but we really hate Hybrid Heaven.
Yeah.
I'll just chalk it up to that. Definitely not me and the way I did things, which is how I feel. That's exactly how I feel when I do that.
Right. No, you take it personally.
Yeah,
You feel it.
it is me.
When I used to make memes all the time, um, it used to really weird me out because I would make a meme that I thought was like the most, like, I would impress myself occasionally. Like, I would do something that I felt was beyond my skill level when I stepped back and looked at it. And I'd be like, this is fucking awesome. I felt like, I know this sounds absurd, but like Da Vinci painting the fucking Mona Lisa, right? Like, I feel like this thing is fucking beautiful. Everybody's gonna love it. And then it gets no no likes. And then I post one the next day about farting under the blanket when you're in bed with your wife, and it gets 50,000 likes on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that one of the best one, like, if I can give you an example, and to this day my wife and I still talk about it. If you remember years ago, P. Diddy was at the BET Awards and fell through a hole in the stage in the middle of his performance. Well, put a I made a meme of a jackass in a well, stuck in a shallow well, and I just put Diddy at the BET Awards last night. It's a jackass in a hole.
Yeah.
Nothing. Fucking nothing. To this day, we talk about how good that one actually was. That and Bobby Flay has this giant cat. Bobby Flay, the chef?
I do.
Yeah, he has this giant cat. Yeah, I think they're called Maine Coons or something.
Yeah.
And he's holding it on a silver tray. And he posted that as an Instagram picture one day, and I screenshot it, and then I changed all the text. And what I changed the text to was, I'm about to eat pussy. Your mom knows what I'm talking about. And posted that up, and it got a couple thousand likes. But to me, oh man, I loved it so much. It was my little baby,
Yep.
I got the respect it deserved.
I do like when we sit here and try to verbally describe pictorial humor to our internet listening audience.
Yeah, we're probably losing a mic. Hey, you guys come back. We'll talk about stuff you can get on
Actually,
board
I had
with.
somebody that posted a YouTube video on my Twitter the other day. It was just them reading my memes for 3 minutes, and that was
really?
Yep, that was just it. I'm
Nice.
like, oh, is this a new form? And then a second person saw that and then did the same thing. And I'm like, this does not need to be a thing. We do not need to do this.
I'm gonna make one, Mike. I'm totally gonna make one.
Well, you have to do some of my unfunniest memes, and you have to do it straight deadpan the whole time. Otherwise,
I'll do it straight deadpan. I would like to do 30 minutes of reading your memes.
you'll have to download them.
Maybe
You're going to waste too much time scrolling. Because
No. I'll just get on freaking Twitter one day and set up my screen to where you can see it, and I'll just scroll down and read each meme aloud. Maybe briefly describe it.
Great. That sounds really good. I really am looking forward to this video that I'll be forced to promote because I feel bad about it. All right. So, subject, not news, episode, which we haven't done in a while. Billy.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Billy now has a lot of wrestling content on his YouTube page, and he
That's
frequently
right.
messages me wrestling stuff during the day. So this is turning into Billy's new persona as being this wrestling guy. And
It's not.
it is. It's all Billy talks about is wrestling. In fact, today he sent me a clip of the more famous clip of Stone Cold and Cody Rhodes talking about video games and music and stuff like that. It was pretty funny. And kind of like I
Yes.
hadn't seen it before because I like Billy. So I was like, yeah.
I think I've actually sent it to you before. I realized that, like,
Yeah.
I think I sent it to you months ago. But my wife actually told me not too long ago. She said, I'm glad you're talking to Mike about wrestling." And I said, "Why is that?" And she said, "So I don't have to fucking hear about it like I have for the last 8 years." She's like, "I tolerate the video games. I'm not tolerating. I'm tired of tolerating wrestling."
My wife has watched a few of the Dark Side of the Ring, which if you haven't watched them yet, Billy, you should watch them. And I feel like I tell you all the time to watch them. And now there's a new season
You
out,
do.
and I'm really excited for the
I've,
Marty Jannetty
I've seen
episode
some.
because I haven't watched the whole season 4 yet. So
I've been watching them. Probably shouldn't watch them this way, but on YouTube.
yeah, well they're on. I mean they're all over
Um,
the place. YouTube's fine though. So.
where's it stream at? On Hulu?
Yeah, it's on Hulu. Well, it's on Vice TV. So then they go secondary to Hulu after Vice is done with them.
Oh, okay, so yeah, I'll check it out on Hulu. I have my daughter's password. That's what's up.
It was
She's
really
got
good.
my password to everything else, man. We're just trying to even out around here.
Yeah, there's some really good episodes on there. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight, but I just continually talk about every time Billy brings something up. I'm like, yeah, you can watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode about that. Like I've told you to watch a bunch of times, and it never comes to that. He instead talks about something else. I especially am really into Japanese wrestling and then extreme wrestling, so it was really
Yeah.
cool to see the episodes they did on that stuff. They did one on Onita's FMW when Terry Funk went over and did FMW with Onita and who else was over there? Well, Mick was over there. Sabu and his uncle were over there.
The
And it
Iron
was
Sheik.
yeah, doing really well. I'm trying to remember. There's a bunch of other legends that were over there. Abdullah the Butcher went over and did a couple of shows, but they're the ones that
Okay.
started the barbed wire matches,
Right.
and like
Right.
exploding ring and ring on fire and all that crazy stuff. And the
Yep.
like the Yakuza got involved, and it's a really cool episode, but it also shows you like the roots because obviously Terry Funk is still alive when this episode was recorded, so he does a lot of the commentary for the episode with Mick Foley, and it's really cool. It's really good.
Yeah, I love the relationship that Terry Funk and Mick Foley had.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm into. And the other extreme failures like the XPW, I think they did an episode on that. Rob Black, the guy who made all the porn, also had a wrestling organization out in California, and then they did a pretty long episode on it. And they might have even done 2 episodes on him because of all the controversy that was involved in that. And then Nick Gage and GCW. So anyway, if you like the obscure parts of wrestling, Dark Side's really cool. This doesn't really transition well into our all wrestling video game episode because there isn't that many other like crappy backyard wrestling and like the Juggalo sponsored
Oh,
one. There isn't a lot of really good hardcore uh wrestling games. There are hardcore wrestling games, they're just not necessarily good
right.
wrestling games. So, but that's what we want to talk about tonight is some wrestling games. We got some time here, and just wanted to do not only some suggestions, but games that have influenced us over the years that have made us bigger wrestling fans, and games that have made other games better because they were great wrestling games.
Yeah. So, Mike, what was your first wrestling game?
I think that it was probably WWF Raw, maybe. Raw is War on the Genesis, or the one that, what was the one before that? Royal Rumble on the Genesis?
Royal Rumble
They're the
or
two that they were the
WrestleMania?
exact same game. They were, but one was the newer roster and one was the older one. Raw was the newer roster.
No, Raw didn't exist during the Genesis.
Yes, it did, because I still own it.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
I don't think so.
Pretty certain it is. I think it is, Billy.
You're gonna have to look it up now.
I'm going to just keep. Anyway, you can tell me about your favorite wrestling game while I figure out exactly what game.
No, it's not my favorite. It's my first.
Or your first.
And it, like everything with me and gaming, it goes back to playing games with my grandmother. She had pro wrestling on NES. Not WrestleMania, not Steel Cage, generic pro wrestling, you know? And that game was phenomenal. I used to love it. I always played a Starman, the guy in the purple outfit with a black star on his face. Yep, that was my guy.
WWF Raw 1994 on the Sega Genesis, by the way.
Wow. All right. So you're right.
But that wasn't the original. There was one that came before that.
I didn't think Raw existed then. Not the game, like Raw itself.
I know what you're talking about, like the show. It was just, I think it was a Saturday only thing back then. Just like they had like Saturday Slam Masters and all that other crazy stuff where they just
Shotgun Saturday Night.
Yeah. Anyway, Raw was the first one. Yes, I do. And that was when In Your House. I don't think In Your House was even a pay-per-view yet. It was still that was free on cable once or twice.
Yeah, like Starcade.
Yep. Those are super cool.
Yep.
But anyway, Sega would have been my first big time foray in the wrestling. And then we had, still on the Sega, I had WrestleMania, the arcade game, I believe, with the really photorealistic wrestler models. Like they're probably actual photos.
Like, yeah, it's the same one we had on Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Raw was on Super Nintendo too. Both these were. I just was a Sega kid, so you know. And then I went from that to N64. It would have been WCW NWO World Tour. I never had Revenge. I went from World Tour straight to WrestleMania 2000 and WWF Royal Rumble on the Dreamcast. I had nearly simultaneously. So.
Revenge is my favorite wrestling game.
That's silly.
Is it?
Yep, because the WCW games both had the rotate the control stick to kick out of every pin. So I'll never get behind those being the best wrestling games because
I didn't say it was the best.
Well, you couldn't play them with your friends. It shouldn't be because your friends are either you guys all were the most honest kids ever and refused to touch the control sticks while you played it, or you all cheated and you kicked out of every pin and you forced your opponent to use submissions only.
So. You know how you keep somebody from kicking out? You actually kick them so they can't rotate the stick and kick out.
Slap the controller on their hand. Yeah.
It starts a real fight, dude.
Yeah. A lot of people like Revenge because of the roster, and I understand that. It had
the roster was phenomenal. And it was I know it wasn't the first, but to me it felt like the first complete customizable character.
Well, it was
wrestling.
The best early customizable ones, even if it wasn't
right. Because you couldn't start a character from nothing. You would have to take Scott Steiner and you could change the name, the whole move set, everything. But you could turn him into any character into your own character.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed that.
And that's the thing. So I got WrestleMania 2000, and once again, that's the thing. WrestleMania 2000 did one step better.
Yep.
Still the same company, published by THQ. The wrestling engine was by Aki, which is the gold standard essentially for wrestling games. But
right.
So that was the next one. They had create a wrestler slots and then increased all of the moves, taunts, everything, customizable options. And then they went on with No Mercy, which did the same thing again and added a story mode. I personally liked WrestleMania 2000's calendar mode better than I liked No Mercy's branching storylines mode, but that's just a personal preference. A lot of people love No Mercy, but so it is what it is. Overlooked in that family are the virtual pro wrestling games. Um,
Oh yeah.
Once again, same engine, so they play exactly the same. They just weren't released in the States. But they also, especially Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, they added a bunch of other styles of fighting. So the shoot wrestling, and they also added MMA and kickboxing. So they had Marcel Hoof, and they had Boss Rutan and a bunch of other Don Fry, I believe, was in that game. I can't remember for certain, but they had a different game mode where striking and grappling did way more damage, and you could do submissions that way. They had specific modes just for real fighting, shoot wrestling, shoot fighting. And that was
Right.
cool. Plus they had the roster on those games were just ridiculous too. And same things. They had a Legends with the Funk, Dory, and Terry, and then they had Abdullah the Butcher and Mike Awesome, all really big in Japan at the time. So that was cool.
Right.
Worth checking out.
Virtual Pro, New Japan Pro Wrestling was good also.
So I like that game, or parts of that game. I like that everything, it felt better. Like it felt more old school, I guess. Like the moves hurt more. They took longer to do. You couldn't chain as many together like you could with the Aki
Mm-hmm.
engine because it was more like a fighting game. And I like that you could do all sorts of like nasty stuff. Like you could, after the ref told you to break a hold, you could hold it for another 5 seconds. So if you were like trying to wrestle like a real heel, or after you were told to the opponent
Right.
grab the ropes, you could keep doing it. Like, so that stuff was cool. The entrances were cool. That had a cool roster too. But the gameplay was the button press gameplay that like WWF Attitude and the Acclaim wrestling games had in the States. And I didn't enjoy that as much, but it looked good and it was fun to play, just not as much as the Virtual Pro games.
Let me ask you a question about wrestling games. Do you think when WWE moved to the whole SmackDown versus Raw format and put, 30 games out, that they were pretty much all the same, and we're looking at fucking FIFA by EA at that point? Like, it's pretty much just the same game every year with a different altered roster. I mean, like, it made it boring. Or is that just me?
No, I didn't play any of those. After I left Dreamcast, I went to Fire Pro Wrestling on PlayStation instead, and ended up never playing any of the. I've yet to play any of the SmackDown vs. Raw games. Any of them.
Yeah, they're okay. Did so. I The other day I almost played it, and I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this because I've heard strange things about it. The TNA Impact Wrestling. Have you played it?
Nope.
So apparently the controls are very, very different than any other wrestling games. So it's like a weird learning curve. And so I'm kind of hesitant to try to play that one.
That's the same way with Fire Pro. Fire Pro's got a real, like super long list of moves, but the controls are hard to get used to, and it is slow paced. But you can do all sorts of crazy matches. It's super fun. The only other weird wrestling game I played was the one on GameCube. Was at WrestleMania like XII. I don't know if it was supposed to be 12 or what that stood for, or was
Uh,
it IX? That was the only other wrestling game I played from that generation. Then I took like a 10-year break and hadn't played
Wait,
any.
what were
Oh,
the two WWF games that were released exclusively on GameCube? I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
I don't know. Because the only one I played was that
Road?
WrestleMania one, unless that was one of them.
No, nope, nope, nope. What I'm thinking of, it had a 1 and a 2. And, geez, I can't remember.
I'll look them up
Whatever.
while you prattle on about something
Chit
else.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Now
can't
you're gonna
remember
now
it.
you're gonna be stuck on it instead of just.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a little bit stuck on
Is
it,
it Day of
but
Reckoning?
yeah, Day of Reckoning, and there was Day of Reckoning too.
And the one I played was WWE WrestleMania XIX. So what is that? I don't know how
That's
Roman numerals work.
19.
19. Okay, so that's the one I played. I remember seeing. So I'm looking at the games now. Legends of Wrestling. I remember seeing that. Never played it. Um,
Oh,
I guess
Legends is decent. Forgot about that
The
one.
Def Jam games. I played those. I didn't really consider those wrestling games, though they are.
Neither did I. I felt like those were more of fighters. You
Yeah.
know.
It was a lot of like out of the ring action and a lot of weapons. But they did use the correct
Yeah.
like it used kind of the same like grappling system. So they were fun. I love Def Jam Vendetta. Um didn't really play Fight
Yeah.
for New York, and now it's too expensive to get a hold of if even if you want it. So
So probably about 4 years ago when that game really started going up in price, I got a hold of it for GameCube and I put it up for sale, and then somebody bought it like 3 days later, and I told them I wasn't shipping it to them until I beat it, and so it took me about 4 days to beat it, and then I sent it to them. It was shooting up in price, and I'm like, I'm never gonna pay this for my own collection, so
yeah.
I'm gonna play it now while I have the chance. It's alright. Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
have
It
you
was a pretty
played
decent game.
or have you watched or played any of the more recent wrestling games that came out?
Nope.
None of them?
No, I haven't.
Not interested at all?
None.
It's weird. Not even like Fight Forever? You weren't all interested when that gave all the hype saying they were going to try to use the old game engine and stuff?
No, I don't even know anything about that. To be perfectly honest, I got kind of burnt when they started doing the Raw versus SmackDown thing, and I felt like it was just the same game every year, and I just kind of stopped playing new wrestling games at that point.
Well,
I
AEW
think when they
released a
got to like,
game this year, Fight
did
Forever.
they?
Yep, and Kenny
Is it on
Omega and
is it on the
it's not
Switch?
yeah, it's on everything. Um So Kenny Omega, one of their big stars, has always said that his favorite wrestling game was Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. And they also have Chris Jericho on their roster, who pretty much echoes the same thing, that the Aki wrestling games were always his favorite. So they made a wrestling game with a new engine, but based around those type of games. So it's like a more arcadey grappling style thing. It's not perfect, mind you. I only played it briefly. Um, it needs some polish. It needs some stuff added to it. It probably won't be better till the sequel, no matter what they add to it. Because like the entrances are boring and the models are kind of goofy looking. Like they could have did better, but the game is fun. Like it is a fun game, like we used to have. So that's worth looking at.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Um, I'm a lot more interested in indie stuff nowadays than I have been in the last few years. I'm trying to get back to that direction because I like I like people that can actually wrestle, you know? So I feel like a lot of the time in WWE you have what I've heard Jim Cornette refer to as high spot monkeys.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be a high spot.
Well, that's why he
And
doesn't
they
like
they just move.
AEW, because everything is. He
Yeah,
says it's just
they move from
mud
high spot to
gymnastics.
high
Yeah.
spot, and yeah. So as you know, I've been trying to watch some NWA wrestling, and they just signed a TV deal for 2 shows, and reportedly they haven't said it was with CW, but reports are it's with CW. They're going to get a wrestling show, and then they're going to have a reality show about running the day-to-day business of wrestling. And it just made me think, maybe if they get a TV show, maybe we could start getting some indie games again, because I mean, I don't think like, all right, so didn't AEW buy Ring of Honor out
They're
like
all,
just a
they
couple
didn't buy
years
him out.
ago?
Ring of Honor went completely bankrupt, and Tony bought their roster. Tony Khan, the owner of AEW, bought their roster so they could keep
Okay, so
jobs, essentially.
right. So I mean like so we don't really have any options or very many options. Is Impact still around? Are they
It
actually a
is.
thing
Yes.
still?
Yep. Yes, they are.
Yeah, they should have just shut up and did what Jeff Jarrett wanted. Dixie Carter's what? What a ugh. Anyway, so like I don't think there's gonna be a new Impact game. We'll probably get some more AEW games as they grow. If you get an NXT game, all it is a WWF game with characters you don't friggin' know. You know what I
See,
mean? And
during the Black and Gold era, I really liked NXT though. Like Adam Cole being there and Tommaso being there.
no, no, no.
Uh,
But what I'm saying is, with a NXT game, it's going to be whatever. Like, say EA is making WWE games, they're going to use the same engine and everything for an NXT game. The only difference is you're not going to know a lot of the roster.
Billy, I
You
feel
know?
like you're too old for wrestling now. I feel like you're missing out on a lot of the new style of wrestling, which is the same thing that Jim Cornette complains about is that wrestling is he likes wrestling to tell a story and it's got to be believable and it's all, it's not you got to take the kayfabe home with you and all that. Like the new like I'm okay with wrestling spot fests. Like I'm okay with 3 straight Canadian destroyers on the ring apron and then 15 tables and then somebody double moonsaulting into all of this thing. They're not being any like holds for 5 minutes in the ring, winding the crowd up and, some other guy having to Hulk out of some wrist lock or something. I'm okay without that. And I know that a lot of the older heads in the business just don't like that as much. But I mean, I think embracing both sides, like a strong style match, like Japan still does a lot of those, and then the new high. I don't want to even say it's high flyer because they don't just do high flyer stuff; they just do a lot of exciting wrestling. Um, I like embracing all that stuff.
Are you
Which is
saying
what
I'm an old head when it
yeah,
when it
yeah,
comes to
yeah. You
wrestling?
listen to too much Jim Cornette, is what I'm saying.
I don't think I do.
I feel like
I only
based
listen
on
to.
based on your feelings about NXT and AEW and not playing the game, I feel like you're not immersing yourself into the last.
I'm actually rooting for AEW. I would love it if they overtook NXT completely.
Well,
I I
I don't think that's going to
I
happen
actually, well,
because they're a different
neither do
thing.
I, because yeah, they are, but NXT wants to compete with them directly, but like they're different, but they're kind of on the same level, but one of them is owned by the Super Bowl champs, you know, and one of them is a high school football team. I
Kind
think
of.
AEW needs to be left alone and just see where they grow to, because I think they'll be doing fine. Just don't bring Hogan and Bischoff and Russo in, and I think they'll continue to grow and do well.
That's pretty much assured until Sting retires that won't happen because Jericho and Sting refuse to work with any of those people at this point in their careers. So, like, I don't think you have to worry all that much about
Yeah,
that. It'd be the other way. You're worried about
yeah,
young talent, like they just lost Jade Cargill to the WWE, so they pushed this girl who is not a wrestler, but she's getting better. She's like a fitness, like a bodybuilder, Jade Cargill, and she won their TNT title and they made her undefeated like Goldberg. Like she just went going and going and going and going, and she was beating everybody and looking great. And then they had her lose to Chris Statlander because she was going to WWE. So she technically only had 1 or 2 losses in AEW because she was going to make more money elsewhere. So there'll always be the dangling of the money that WWE allows their or pays their wrestlers to get him away from places like AEW. So there'll
Yeah,
always be
well, they've
competition.
always done that.
Yeah.
I mean, they've
Well, for a
always
while that
done
was
that.
it was the
They,
problem the other way. WCW was the one offering more money. That's why Bret Hart left.
you know, okay, so I'm I've tried to make this point to people and tell me if you get what I'm saying. So that really was a big thing at the time, was WWE superstars and legends going to WCW,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep, because Piper
Scott
went,
Hall and
Hogan.
Kevin
Yep.
Hall and Nash, one of the biggest entrants in another promotion ever, right?
Yep.
But to me, there's one entrance into a new promotion that outdoes that, and it's Jericho to WWF.
You thought so?
I do think so, because I think not only was it built up phenomenally with the countdown
Yeah.
clock
The Y2J
showing
thing.
up,
Yeah.
yeah, showing up for months. So it wasn't just the moment, but it made a mark. And the mark it made was WCW was bringing all of the lead talent and legends into WCW. And here is one of their biggest rising stars, who had become a legitimate superstar, quit and went to WWF when everyone else was going the other way for the more money. And I think it made such a significant mark, because up until that point, we hadn't seen anyone really move over the other way. This
Yeah.
was, everybody was like, who's going to show up on WCW next week? At
Well,
the time, they had Rick Rude on both shows at the same time.
yeah. So the
I
feeling
think
I've always got
Jericho,
about that was that, or the portions of the stories that I heard is that guys like Jericho, Diamond Dallas Page, all of the cruiserweights, so Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chavo, Juventud Guerrero, all of the cruiserweights and stuff were feeling like that with this NWO push, that it didn't
yeah,
matter how good they were, that there's only a certain amount of hours on TV. So even like guys like Chris Kanyon and
yeah,
they did that huge, like, well, Canyon was Mortis at the time, but then he was Canyon after that with, Raven and all the
Raven
guys
and
that
the
came over from
Flock.
ECW.
Yeah,
Yep. So all those guys had really great pushes right up into the NWO thing. So what you saw was a lot of those guys who were losing their spotlight to NWO because they wouldn't be a rising star. They would be stars, but they couldn't go through what they were doing with NWO. And
right.
that's
I
why
mean,
Chris thought that it was better to leave. So
yeah, absolutely. Because if you look exactly what happened, like, so the Raven and his flock was happening at the same time as NWO.
mm-hmm.
And like when NWO started, it was just a couple people. And you thought that, maybe someplace in some world this could be rival factions. But the NWO became nothing but all of the legendary wrestlers,
Yeah.
all of the top guys.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's what WCW had to
Ravens,
do as the counterpoint then. So then they had Luger and all of the other old head top WCW guys as the opposing
right,
force. Yeah, and guys like Raven got run out.
right, right. And Ravens flock was over. People
Way
liked
over.
them. They went
Everybody loves
over.
Raven.
Um, and to the point where, look what a fucking superstar Billy Kidman became, even though they wouldn't let him do anything but wrestle in fucking cruiserweight matches. The dude's got the best moonsault in the business to begin with. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, shooting star press,
Yeah.
without a doubt. He broke out of Raven's flock so hard, he was so over, and there was nothing for him to do, because
And
they
he
were
actually did
pushing
okay in
cruiserweight.
WWE too. But the problem is
Yeah,
yeah, it wasn't because they didn't WWE didn't hold that light heavyweight cruiserweight thing for long enough after all those the wrestlers came over from WCW, they all got lost a second time. Then, like Kidman had some really good
Right.
matches, including against one was really really good against Bret Hart. But I'm a Bret Hart fan, so you know that I'm
So am
impartial to
I.
that. So, but I mean, yeah, one would argue that Eddie Guerrero has done really well for himself up until his death.
Hell yes.
That Rey Mysterio did really well for himself up to, but there's a lot
Oh
of other
yeah.
guys. They aren't believable against guys like Brock Lesnar. They're not believable against guys like The Undertaker. You fully expect, if you're going to make Kane be Kane, you know, that he should be able to grab
Yeah,
two of
but
those cruiserweights with his hands and just throw them all over the place. And that's not, you know, it is what it is. So
right, but there was a period there when maybe WWF had to respect what was propping up WCW for a while before the NWO, which was the cruiserweight division. All these guys from Mexico
oh yeah,
and
they
all
also
of the
screwed up the luchadors because WCW practically had uh, a 20,
yeah,
30 well-known La Parca, like I said, all the Guerreros that we talked about, like they had all
yeah,
sorts
all
of
the
crazy.
Guerreros,
Yeah.
and then Psychosis,
Yep.
Laparca, yeah,
Yep.
phenomenal.
El
And then
Vampiro
they
when he was still around. Yeah.
Yep, and they were bringing in guys that had spent years wrestling in Mexico and Japan, like
Ultimo Dragon came over
Jericho,
forever. Yep.
huh?
Ultimo Dragon came over forever holding his big pile
Oh,
of belts for yep.
I do remember Ultimo Dragon coming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and for a minute, like the cruiserweight division really is what started fixing WCW when it was
Mm-hmm.
a sinking ship for a long time, bringing all those guys in, and then to be treated like they weren't really anything when the NWO started was really disappointing to see. So I think that's why it made such a big deal because, hey, we're pulling all of these top stars from WWF and to see Jericho go over there and he's like, I'm going to make my future here. I'm going to make less money per year, but I have a much brighter future because here I can be the man. I don't have to like bow down to these guys that should have retired 15 years ago, like fucking Hogan. You
Yep.
know, I don't know. I have a lot of issues with Hogan. You know that. I was a Macho
Yeah.
Man guy,
That
and
actually,
Sting.
so the Hogan thing was crazy. Hogan coming out and being the third man is crazy, but honestly, seeing Macho Man come over in black and white was a lot more jarring to me because it seemed like a depart. I know he was the Macho King at the time, mind you, not the Macho Man or whatever, but it was more jarring to me to see him come over and just be another guy with Hogan
It
than it
was
was.
the madness at the time.
But it was just so weird having him play like fourth fiddle to Hogan and Hall and Nash and
On Nash,
yeah.
it was, you know, I'm a Macho Man guy, not a Hogan guy. And yeah, I don't. But then again, like a lot of mistakes were made with adding people to the NWO. It got really bloated really fast. Um,
Yeah.
as far as I watched a thing just the other day where Sting was being interviewed and he got asked why he didn't take the contract with WWE when they bought WCW. And he said because he never felt that Vince wanted to hire him because of his skills. He wanted him because he was the embodiment of the WCW franchise and he was going to slowly turn him into a jobber just to make it look like WCW was never really any good. And he's like, and I just couldn't do that. I'd rather not work.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I get that.
All right. So that's a lot of
You know,
non-video game wrestling talk.
yeah,
Do
who
you have
cares, man? We just,
me? I care because at some point we got to full
okay,
circle this episode. So do you have any?
okay.
Do you have any current wrestling games that you're excited about, Billy?
No.
Really? So, okay, so you didn't play Fight Forever. Have you heard of WrestleQuest? This is the other one I wanted to talk to you about.
No. No, but tell me about it.
It's an all so 2D sprite kind of thing. Wrestling RPG.
Uh-huh.
And it's super fun. Also
What?
on all of the systems that we're talking about, Switch, PS5, all like everything. And it has, you can relive all of these great moments that we're talking about because they have guys like let me think, give me a second now. I know that Andre the Giant's on there. I know that DDP's on there. I know that the British Bulldog is on there. I know that Jared and Jake the Snake are on there. Bret Hart, Macho Man. I'm probably missing a bunch. La Parka, you brought up La Parka. He's on there. The Nasty Boys are on there. Luna. Anyway, it's an
Luna
RPG,
Vachon?
dude. Yeah. Uh, it's an RPG, dude. Like it has hit points. It has like a, but the coolest thing is it kind of had like the college football style crowd system. So if you do a move over and over again, the crowd gets
Uh-huh.
angry. Like they get
Oh,
like
really?
rowdy. And then that makes your opponent it's like a buff. It makes your opponent stronger than if you
Uh-huh.
repeat moves, and then it's the same thing. You chain and do things that are interesting. The crowd then roots for you, and that makes your move stronger. But it's still like RPG style in between. So you get your opponent's hit points down to 0, and then you can pin them and stuff. And it ends up being somewhere between a role playing game style RPG and a wrestling game. It's really fun. There's a bunch of like cartoony moments, like Andre the Giant like lifting up the whole ring and stuff like that. Like it's real fun though,
Nice.
dude. So if you're looking
It's
for
not
something,
very sportsmanlike.
if you're looking for something to play, a newer wrestling game, and you don't like Fight Forever, I would definitely suggest Wrestle Quest, because there's also a Wrestle Fest, which is the remake of the arcadey one that we were I can't remember what the arcade one was called. WF. Whoa, what was that? Wrestling Legends, but it's now there's Wrestle
Can we
Fest,
call
which
it
is this.
can we call it WrestleQuest 64?
I mean, you can. That's not what it is, but you can make Brian in it because you obviously get to make your own character. So
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do that. And
yeah,
then he's gonna get
it's
beat up by Luna Vachon.
he's not because it doesn't work that way. But he can take out the Muchacho Man, because I don't think it's the Macho Man in that game. It's the Muchacho Man. So because mind you, they don't have the
Yeah.
rights to these names, but it's just but you know who
Right,
these
right.
people are. So, but WrestleQuest,
Yeah, I'm
play
pretty
that.
sure
That's the new wrestling game.
I figured out who Joke Jogan was.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey, here's a weird thing. You know, a minute ago you mentioned DDP. You
yes,
remember his hand signal?
yeah. The diamond,
Where
like
it,
the yep,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, he trademarked it, and
yeah.
Jay-Z and Rockaware started using it, holding up their hands like diamonds in the same pattern, putting on T-shirts and everything. DDP sued him, got an undisclosed amount settlement for trademark infringement.
I wonder if he gets royalties. I wonder because they continued using it, didn't they? Did they not?
I think so. Yeah, he probably has a
I'm sure they
royalty deal in place.
I'm sure they just work something out. Just like the people who have music on Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. We just work something out.
Right.
Send me 50
We'll just
bucks a
work
month. We'll
something out.
just for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but no, good for him, man. He got a little bit off of that, because how many people's dances have been stolen and put on Fortnite? You
See,
know?
now I didn't think those were stolen. I thought they paid for those. I thought Fortnite's been paying
Nope.
royalties and all this.
No, as far as I know, they've never paid royalties on any of them.
Because like Justin Jefferson was the Minnesota wide receiver, the Vikings wide receiver, does the gritty, and they put him in the game when they put the gritty in the game, if I remember correctly. So I always thought they were just doing under the table deals for all these or all these things they were
No,
adding?
no, like when they take the dances, they name it a similar or a pun name of the
Makes
original
sense.
name of the dance. Yeah,
Is this you like literally looking up Fortnite dances now? I
it
was
is.
I
It
was
is
waiting for you
me.
to keep going, but that's fine.
Oh, starting last year. So how long's Fortnite been out for? Like 10 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say 5-10 years. I
Epic
don't know.
Games began crediting creators last year.
Okay, so yeah, they're making so much money now that it doesn't even matter if they pay people for their dances.
Oh, because okay, so apparently they got sued by a few people for stealing their dances. Um, especially Jelaya Harmon, who is a professional choreographer. And so, I mean, dude, if anybody has the right to claim I created a dance and you fucking stole it and you owe me money, I guess a professional choreographer would be that because it's his job to literally make a dance.
See, I just have
You know,
not played enough Fortnite. Probably 5 matches in my life, and it's mostly to get my kids
I've
playing. So
I've never played a single round of Fortnite. I've never had the interest. My kids played it for years, and to this day, I still refer to it as the murder carpentry game.
I actually think it's a pretty good game. I just can't do. They have no build now that you can play just like 100 people first person shooter or third person shooter style without the building, which is more my speed. So that's the ones that I get my
Mhm.
kids to play because it's hard to explain to a 6-year-old how to build stuff, especially in that game. So that's what they've done.
Right.
But this isn't wrestling either, Billy.
No, but it is video games, man. We're
It
we're
is.
somewhere in there. We're circling it.
Let's circle all the way back to this episode being nearly done though, and we'll
It's coming back around again.
Billy, did you learn anything tonight other than a bunch of wrestling stuff about me, like liking Bret Hart and La Parka?
No, I did learn that you like the different modes that they have in virtual pro wrestling too. That they introduced the MMA aspects and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
that you do prefer WrestleMania 2000 over No Mercy. And I gotta agree with you on that one. I think
because
No Mercy's just a little bit overhyped. I don't
I
think it's
just
a bad game, just slightly
yeah
overhyped.
yeah, it's not the best game. It's just a good game.
Right,
They're all good though. I learned
right.
that you like to uh, visually describe your memes, especially ones that transform professional rappers into barnyard animals. So I'm actually looking
Yes.
forward to more of that in upcoming shows. I was actually introduced to the animation movie Barnyard yesterday by a coworker, so I will be fully expecting you to uh, talk about how you memed the entire Wu Tang Clan into the Barnyard animation movie by the time we get together next
I
week.
wouldn't do that to the Wu Tang Clan. I live in New York. They'll come fucking get me, dude.
I So just don't talk about it. Just do it. You don't have to visually describe it. I just want you to do it. So Billy,
Just part of my check.
are you doing any Billy stuff any places? Are you is Billtendo trademarked all sorts of areas where people can buy and sell things?
Well, you could do that on Billtendo.com. You can also check out Billtendo on YouTube, as one of us may have mentioned at some point.
Mm.
And I'm going to be going to a convention tomorrow to film content. It's a development convention for people that have games in development. None of these have been released yet, so I'm gonna be
It'd be
showing
cool.
y'all some really cool stuff.
I'm excited for things like
Mike,
that. I have
Mike's Mike's gonna get all the raw footage. You guys get edited content on YouTube, but definitely check it out. Mike's gonna get raw footage, so if I trip and fall or anything, Mike definitely gets that video.
nice. Then I can meme it tomorrow. It'll be great. I really like that.
Yep.
YouTuber fails. Just all Billy.
I'm not a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm. Billy shouting out his YouTube before the end of the episode, then calling himself not a YouTuber. This is classic Billy moments. We will add that to the classic Billy moments compilation, which you'll be getting later next year, probably Q2. Billy's greatest internet things. I didn't come up with a more creative title because I just thought of it now.
Yeah, you need to shop that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
Yeah, all right.
I'll take it to my improv group, and then I'll really pound it out there.
And then,
And then,
and then.
all right,
All right,
everybody.
Mike,
This
let's
was
get
a
out of here.
wonderful time tonight. I look forward to talking more about wrestling with Billy instead of video games in the future. It feels like this is inevitable. So I hope you all liked it too. And good evening to you.
Later.